What's up everyone, Eric Rossi, the guy with the eye here, and it's about time. Canon fully announced and are going to release the Canon 5D Mark IV. This has probably been one of the biggest things that's been on the back burner for Canon, but it's finally official. The full specs are finally there. It was interesting, just 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did a reaction about leaked specs, and it sounded awful of what they were offering, but I guess they were kind of just teasing at it, but that's why it's an interesting discussion point. Let's break down the specs and what all of this means in the new Canon 5D Mark IV. Is it really interesting? There's a lot to talk about. The 5D Mark III was a great camera for what it was, but it was falling very, very behind. Canon really just took a step back in their video game in the past 2 years, and Sony really caught up, and Nikon did its best to kind of catch up, but Sony's been really up there. So let's tackle some of the still specs on this thing and really get into it, and let's see what we have. It's got a 30.4 megapixel sensor, which was pretty much believed in the leak specs, and it's fine. It's a great medium. I still think it's a lot, for what it is, but it's a full frame sensor, Digix 6 Plus processor, so it's one of their newest, fastest, etc., all that kind of stuff. 30 megapixels is not bad. Once again, I'm even comfortable shooting with 12, and it's 2016. It has a native ISO 100 to 32,000, which is a bit low compared to a lot of the cameras coming out now. You even have Nikon shooting up in the millions, expanded and everything like that, but expanded this shoots 102,400, but this is a bit low, and I think that's because of the megapixels are a bit higher, but 32,000 is a little bit of a letdown. With this camera, there is a ton of good, but there are a couple little disappointing things that you'll come to realize as we go along. The awesome part about this is a 3.2-inch touchscreen on the back right here, full touchscreen. So it's really awesome to know that you can actually use this compared to a kind of half-assed one that Nikon put in, especially in like their D500, which you really couldn't do much with it. It was just kind of a tease, but this finally has full access to that, which is great. 61 autofocusing points, 41 being cross type, and it's pretty much the same as the Canon 1DX Mark II, so you're kind of getting all that package in this little guy right here, so that's also pretty exciting. It has 7 frames per second, but, and this is the interesting part, this uses a CF and SD card slot. There's a lot going on in this camera. It needs to be fast, but it's not using the best technology out there. Now, I highly doubt it would use an XQD card, because I guess that's really kind of locked down to what Nikon's using and Sony probably down the future. But it's interesting that they don't use CFast, but I guess they're really kind of protecting their cinema line with like their C100, 300s and everything like that, and they're just worried about that. But if you're using 4K video and all this kind of stuff, which I'll cover, something like this is pretty essential. So keep that in mind if you need something with that. But you can have 21 frames per second raw shooting to the CF and only 19 going to the SD card slot. So the speed of this probably isn't going to be the best, but you get what you can take in regards to that. But JPEGs are pretty much kind of unlimited for the most part. This will have built-in Wi-Fi, near field communication, GPS, so it's going to excite a ton of people, and it's just something I guess needed at that point. I mean, why not? You are spending $3,500 on this camera, so that's going to be the release point in early September. $34.99.99. Besides that, you have something new, and this is going to be a talking point that we should discuss right now, is the dual pixel RAW capability. Basically, if you really have heard of Lytro before, they had that light field Lytro technology where you can like shift focus later, make adjustments and everything like that. And this is kind of the same thing that they're saying. So in this raw image, if you choose this setting, you'll be able to go into Canon software, I think it's like the DPP software or whatever, and you'll be able to make micro adjustments, for example, for ghosting, for focusing. So say if you accidentally, you're shooting a wedding and you shoot a bride's portrait, and like you accidentally like miss the eye if you're shooting at like 1.8 or 1.4 or anything like that, this software, this technology will allow you to micro focus back to the eye. So I guess it will kind of be like bracketing for the most part. The only other thing it does is also bokeh. So that'll be interesting to see how all that holds and all this kind of stuff. It's shades of Lytro. Lytro absolutely failed with this technology. I think Canon will do something good with it, so we will see. But once again, all of this will double your raw size file because you're, capturing much more information. The still side, there is a lot of pluses to this, but it's a lot of updates you'll see and a lot of headlines and everything is you will see the play for 4K video. And that's probably one of the biggest things that came with this. And that was one of the things that a lot of people needed, and Canon really needed to do this. And they need to eat their pride and not just put it in their cinema line. So they finally do have 4K video at 30 frames per second. So you are getting that with a 1.74 times crop though, so keep that in mind. But in all reality, that's not that bad. It does do 1080p at 60 frames per second. It is very disappointing that they don't do 120 frames at 1080p, but you get that baked in at a 720p, 120 frames per second, and it basically makes it slow-mo without audio. But you get 1080p at 60, 30, 24, all that kind of fun stuff as well. The other interesting part that they're stressing is 4K frame grabbing. So you're shooting 4K video, and you're all of a sudden you like this one scene in there, you like this one shot, you're like, I think that can make a good JPEG. You can actually, use a touchscreen, go to the exact frame that you want. Basically, you could save an 8.8 megapixel JPEG right in camera or right to your card right then and there. So that's something that I would never really use, but I guess maybe if something strikes your fancy and you want to do that and use it to Wi-Fi and send it to Instagram, I guess you could. It's kind of a vanity feature, but it's something interesting that, Tony Northrup and everything has really talked about that being future, and maybe it is, and this is what is in there. And the Mark IV will also have the dual pixel AF, which has basically been through a lot of their lines right now, and it's just some of the best things out there with increased facial recognition. So all in all, this will have no 4K HDMI out, so that's going to be a kind of a letdown for people, but once again, that's up towards those C300 line and everything, and that's really what's going to protect that. It's going to have full DCI cinema resolution, but you're not going to get your C-Log and everything, and that's, once again, the protection for their cinema line of cameras. So overall, as I said, this bad boy is going to be $3,500, and this thing will be for anyone. As I said, when I originally talked about the specs of this, I was very disappointed from what I've heard, but as I said, there are a lot of letdowns with this because it is really late for a lot of the stuff to get in here compared to what Sony's been popping out and pushing out, especially the touchscreen that Nikon just put out with their cameras as well. But it's about time. It's definitely well needed, and I think that it's going to drop the price of the 5D Mark III a lot, and it's going to be a great value for like $2,000 or $2,500 or whatever. But for $3,500, you're getting a lot, and especially with this dual pixel RAW technology, and we'll see how that really works with this system. I think that's going to be something of the future. And as I said a while back, whoever can figure out how to put this technology in a camera and a DSLR will win. So we will see exactly how that happens with this. They did release a new 24-105 f4 version 2, which has been well needed. That other one's been old. And a 16-35 f2.8 v3. So all in all, the 5D Mark IV, there is a lot of exciting parts to it. I think it's definitely well needed. A couple little innovative things, especially with the Wi-Fi, 4K video, and this dual pixel RAW thing. But other than that, everything's really kind of standard. It still has the body look of the 5D Mark III, but if you go through and you look at it right here, it's pretty much going to look the exact same of what you're used to. And should you upgrade from the 5D Mark III? Probably. If you want a little bit more of this newer technology, and I guess you might as well at this point because it's already a couple years old, and you're not going to lose that much money out of it, especially if you look to sell right now. You could probably get $2,800 for the 5D Mark III right now, all depending on how beat up it is, and you don't have to invest that much more. But what do you guys and girls think of this camera? Once again, I think that there is a lot to talk about. This Pixel RAW thing is going to be absolutely huge, but the lack of card speed and everything like this, no matter if you use a souped up SD card or whatever, is very disappointing for something like this as well. And the weird frames per second with however you're writing to it in RAW photos. JPEGs, once again, if you shoot JPEG, it's not going to be really an issue for you. But for RAW imaging, you're going to be a little bit limited on it. But the 3.2-inch full touchscreen is absolutely amazing as well. And I just think that this camera will do well for pretty much anyone in any situation. It'll cover your landscapes fine with the 30 megapixels. It'll do low light pretty well as it is, and it just will do everything. Your portraits are going to look nice. You don't need 50 megapixels for an amazing portrait. I think that this will be a great thing to look at below. But if you want more information and you want to pre-order it, please use my affiliate link for B&H down below. It really helps the channel if you decide to go that route. If not, just let me know your thoughts on this, especially if you're a Canon shooter. Does this interest you? If you're a 5D Mark III owner, will you jump ship and get something like this? Or will you join Nikon? Who knows? Let's talk about it. Thank you so much for watching this whole video. Important to break down everything. This is very historic for Canon. This is probably one of their most interesting cameras made, especially in the past couple years with everything that's now in this. Let me know your thoughts down below as well. Please like this video, share it, bring it out there. Hopefully I taught you a thing or two. Subscribe for more videos. Have some fun.